March Madness is here, so let's talk about some controversial teams. I'm not even going to do an intro because I want to get to these teams right away, so let's get right into this video right now. I'm yet to speak about the Kentucky Wildcats in a video, and it's for a reason. I don't feel very confident in them. Kentucky is a 3 seed and a popular national champion pick. A lot of people are high on them, whether it be on social media, people I've spoken to, or in the comment section on my videos. A quick disclaimer. The opinions I share here are my own based on watching the teams, research, and some stats I've found. At the end of the day, I know absolutely nothing about college basketball. I just love watching it and talking about it, and that's what I do here. Everything I say in this video could end up being flat out wrong, but I'm just going to give you my thoughts based on what I know and what I've seen. That being said, here's the pros with Kentucky. Well, they score points like nobody's business. They averaged over 89 points per game this season, which was second in all of college basketball. They hit triple digits in points 6 times with a high of 118 points. They've got guys who can score points in bunches like Antonio Reeves, who averages 20 a night, as well as freshmen Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepard, and DJ Wagner. The team shot over 41% from beyond the arc this season, good for best in the nation. I'm telling you, they can score points and they can do it in a hurry. Just look at that late February game against Alabama, where Kentucky put up 58 points in the first half, and then followed that up with 59 points in the second half. But continue looking at those numbers, and you'll see where the problem lies with Kentucky. They allowed 95 points in that game, and that is certainly not an outlier. This team gives up points just as easy as they score them. They allowed 90-plus 6 times this season. They also allowed over 79 points per game this season, which is the 4th highest among all high major schools. Their defense is flat out poor. Despite a top 5 adjusted offense on KenPom, their adjusted defense ranked 110th this season. I know I talk about how offense matters in March Madness, but you also need to have a serviceable defense. Kentucky's defense is not serviceable. In their SEC tournament game against Texas A&M, they still shot the lights out, but their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Antonio Reeves fouling out certainly impacted their chances at a win, but typically bad defenders resort to fouling. I'm not calling Reeves a bad defender, but if you're on a team that's allowing the second most points per game in all of America, it's fair to say you're not exactly prime Kawhi Leonard. Rob Dillingham is another one who struggles with fouls. He's fouled out of 2 games this year, but he's seemingly in foul trouble every game. Reeves is a senior, but Dillingham's foul trouble could be a product of his immaturity, something that permeates throughout this Kentucky team. Now, when I say immaturity or lack of maturity, I'm not saying they behave like little kids. The better word to use might be inexperience or just lack of upperclassmen. I've talked before about teams like Creighton, Auburn, Tennessee, and North Carolina who have a slew of upperclassmen and guys who have been in these situations before. Kentucky lacks that. Among their top 7 players in points per game, 4 of them are freshmen. You could argue head coach John Calipari makes up for that with his vast experience, but Coach Cal might be over the hill. His Wildcats haven't won the SEC tournament since 2018, a trend they continued this year, and they haven't made it out of the first weekend since 2019. All of these things just spell trouble for me. To win a national championship, you need to win 6 straight games. They did that once this season, back in December and January, and when they were on the cusp of doing it again, they snapped their 5-game win streak with a loss to A&M in the conference tournament. They lost to A&M twice, to LSU, to some tough SEC teams, and UNC Wilmington. I'm not really going to knock them for an early season loss to UNCW, but those others tell me they're not on national champion level. A 6-7 Quad 1 record, a loss in Quad 2, and a loss in Quad 3. I think people are giving Kentucky special treatment for some reason, and I'm just not riding that wave. In the round of 64, I don't see them having any trouble with Horizon League champ Oakland, but in the round of 32, they'll either see Texas Tech or a red-hot NC State team. If DJ Burns keeps playing like prime Shaq, I don't see a guy on the Kentucky roster that can stop him. All of this is not to say Kentucky will exit the tournament early, just be very aware of their limitations, and it's also me addressing all the people who have asked me why I don't talk about Kentucky. The next team is quite similar to Kentucky. It's another SEC team that bowed out of the conference tournament early, that also shoots the rock like madmen, that plays terrible defense. I've already mentioned them in this video. It's the Alabama Crimson Tide. The pros with Alabama, well, they were number 1 in college basketball in points per game, averaging over 90 a night. They put up 100 or more points 9 times this season, with a high of 111. Senior guard Mark Sears was as steady as they come for the Tide this season, as he played 32 games, and in 22 of them he scored at least 20 points. I like to describe Alabama as a more extreme version of Kentucky. They're the only team in the nation that scores more points than Kentucky. They've got that incredible offense, but what do they also have? You guessed it, a miserable defense. I mentioned Kentucky's points allowed per game was 4th worst among high majors. Alabama was second worst, and it's kind of funny to look at the bottom 4 teams. You've got 3 SEC teams in Bama, Kentucky, and Arkansas, then good old DePaul, who didn't win a single Big East game this year. Alabama and Kentucky having a similar defense to DePaul is hilarious, but is obviously a testament to their incredible offenses. At the same time, I'm not kidding when I call their defenses abysmal. They're in DePaul territory. They're third in adjusted offense and 112th in adjusted defense, so again, just an extreme version of Kentucky. The difference is Kentucky can shoot the 3 better than anyone else, while Alabama is a good 3-point team, but not Kentucky good. That doesn't stop Grant Nelson from hoisting up 3 balls, though, as he went 3 for 15 from beyond against Arizona, so maybe he's tanking their percentage. That was a joke, don't get upset, but here's something real. Latrell Wrightsell's an Alabama guard who averages 9 points per game. In conference play, Wrightsell played in 15 games, 11 of which Alabama won. In those wins, Wrightsell shot 47% on 3-pointers. In those 4 losses, he shot 13.3% from 3-point land. Wrightsell missed 4 games towards the end of the season, and Alabama went 2-2 in those games. In their SEC tournament game, he was 0 for 4 on threes and scored just 6 points in the loss. Head coach Nate Oates admitted him not being 100% contributed to their struggles. Will he be 100% when they play Charleston in the round of 64? They better hope so. Alabama allows over 81 points per game, and Charleston scored over 80 points 20 times this season, and were 20-0 in those games. In theory, Alabama should still be able to outscore them because Charleston hasn't seen an offense like Bama in any of those games, but if the Tide end up struggling offensively, they're going to be in trouble because they're surely going to give up 80+. I'm not saying Charleston beating them is a lock, but if Alabama advances, they'll probably meet St. Mary's in the round of 32, who has a good offense and very good defense. Alabama concerns me. This is also Nate Oates' 4th NCAA Tournament at Alabama, and in his first 3, he's been upset in the first round once and been capped at the Sweet 16 in the other 2. I think they'd be lucky to reach the Sweet 16 this year. The last team I'll cover here is the Gonzaga Bulldogs, and guess what? If you stuck around this long, I want to give you a bonus team after Gonzaga. But let's cover the Zags first. I love the draw Gonzaga got. They're the 5 seed in the East region, and the only bad thing is they're matched up with McNeese State in the round of 64. McNeese is a popular, sneaky upset pick because they're coached by Will Wade, who has made 5 tournaments in the past with VCU and LSU before being ousted by LSU for multiple NCAA Level 1 violations. He made a Sweet 16 one year with LSU, but nothing too crazy outside of that. People also like McNeese because they have a legit scoring threat in Shahada Wells. The Cowboys won an astonishing 30 games this season. But here's another stat about them. Some of their wins included victories over esteemed basketball programs, such as the College of Biblical Studies, LaTournau University, and the Mississippi University for Women. Could there be an upset there? Well, certainly. It's March. Anything can happen, but I'm going to move on to Gonzaga now, assuming they win that round 1 game. They'll then face a Kansas team, assuming they survive 13 seed Samford, who not only do I think is just not very good, but is objectively banged up, with leading scorer Kevin McCullough out for the entirety of the tournament. And Hunter Dickinson just missed the Big 12 tournament. In that Big 12 tournament, Kansas got smoked by Cincinnati, a 20-point loss. If they beat Kansas, they'll likely face Purdue in the Sweet 16, led by head coach Matt Painter, who has only ever made 1 Elite 8 in 15 tries, has lost in the Sweet 16 5 times, and has a team that underperforms every single year. Notice how I haven't even said anything about Gonzaga yet. Only their draw, only their opponents. That's because they pretty much have the best possible path you could have asked for. Gonzaga head coach Mark Few is the opposite of Matt Painter. Few has made the tournament every year he's been at Gonzaga, putting him at 24 straight tournaments. In the past 8, he's made the Sweet 16 every single time. He's made 3 Elite 8s and has been to the national championship twice. I'm not saying Gonzaga will make a similar run this year, but their coach knows how to win in March, and they have as good of a draw as you're going to get. That's a winning formula. Even if they fall to Purdue, who's much better than them, that's still a 9th consecutive Sweet 16 for Mark Few. And here's your bonus team, the Baylor Bears. I'm a Baylor fan and I haven't made a video about them all season, so here's the analysis I can give you. Their floor is, well, not making it out of the first weekend. I'd expect them to beat Colgate, but people are very confident in 11 seed New Mexico, who they could potentially meet in the round of 32, and people are confident for good reason. The Lobos won the Mountain West Tournament, a conference that was previously untouchable in March, and by untouchable, I mean you didn't want to touch them because they always lost. But I think teams like San Diego State broke that trend last year. The Lobos also finished 22nd in the net, which is quite impressive and kind of weird for an 11 seed. You might want to pump the brakes on your New Mexico Final Four run, though, as they did go 5-6 in Quad 1 games and lost games in Quads 2, 3, and 4. As for Baylor's ceiling, it's probably the Elite Eight. I think UNC has what it takes to win it all and will represent the West region in the Final Four, but I think Baylor could take down Arizona in the Sweet 16. I've previously discussed my concerns with Arizona, and Baylor picked up 10 Quad 1 wins this year playing in the dangerous Big 12. They've shown flashes at times with superb shooting from guys like Ray J. Dennis, Jaden Nunn, and Jalen Bridges, as well as Jacoby Walters' ability to score. Yves Missi is a highlight reel around the hoop, and at the very least, they'll make for some entertaining tournament games. Scott Drew won a national championship in 2021, and he'll forever have that. But after back-to-back round of 32 exits, if we see another first weekend exit for Drew and the Bears, it may become a trend. That does it for this one. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to comment your thoughts and opinions. If you want my opinion on any team I haven't covered, drop a comment and I'll give you as succinct a response as possible, and I'll probably be extremely wrong, but I'll probably answer. Anyway, that does it for this one. I'll see you next time.